And we welcome you into the Tuesday, May the 10th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Locally, Coach Cal comes out on his website yesterday and throws down the gauntlet towards the Duke basketball program and their claims that anybody who goes to Duke is quote-unquote set for life. Now, you can sit there and argue if a Duke grad or a Kentucky grad is better off in the real world. Obviously, that's a Duke grad because, well, let's just face it, Duke is a better school than Kentucky. But to claim that you're set for life if you go to Duke, I think that's kind of a hollow promise. Every kid chooses their own destiny in the world. How many kids from Kentucky are set for life? I think if you're from Kentucky and you go to UK and you play, yeah, you're set for life. Look at a guy like Jared Polson. You think he's not set for life? Yeah, he could have any job in this town that he wants to have. Look at a Derek Willis. Look at a Dominique Hawkins. They can go back to their hometowns. They can do anything they want to do in their lives. Now, if you're from out of town, if you're from out of state, you're not necessarily set for life, unquote, but it does help, especially if you stick around here. But Coach Cal doing this, throwing the gloves down at Duke, it's about this Bolden kid that both schools are still trying to recruit who can't make up his mind whether to go to Duke or Kentucky. Straight up what that is, and Cal just wanting more attention. That's all this is. But I loved how after this came out yesterday, what's the spin from Duke? Are they just going to sit back and take this? No. What does Coach K come out and say? Well, there's a news release, maybe an hour or two after this becomes a hot topic, that Coach K has just undergone hernia surgery. But he'll be fine for the Olympics after he recovers. And that he had undergone hip surgery earlier in the offseason. And of course, Duke's athletic director comes out yesterday and says, oh yeah, Coach K is going to be here at least another 5 years. What coach who's on the recruiting trail doesn't say they're going to be there at least another 5 years? Every coach says that. Steve Spurrier said that 10 months ago. Where's he at now? He's on the golf course. You couldn't drag him away. There's only two programs that are going after the real high-profile kids that can truly argue with each other. That's Duke and Kentucky. You could say Kansas. You could say maybe a couple of others on a smaller level. But it's Duke and Kentucky that are getting all these recruits. When Duke started going all in with these one-and-done guys, it was war against Kentucky. Bill Self in Kansas picks up the pieces of what Duke and Kentucky leave for him. But those are the three best recruiting schools right now. Duke, Kentucky, Kansas. Bottom line on this, Coach Cal's quote-unquote State of the Union address on his website was directed at one person and one person only. That Bolden kid who can't make up his mind about Duke or Kentucky. So don't let this fool you. So don't let Coach K's little sympathy run over his surgery fool you. These two schools, these two programs, and these two coaches are in out-and-out recruiting wars. But Coach K at Duke thinks he's holier than thou, claiming the sympathy card that he's hurt, he's injured, he's been in the hospital, but he's got to prepare for the Olympics. And you don't see Coach Cal coaching an Olympic team anytime soon. But for any school, I don't care if you're an Ivy League school, to say you're set for life by going there, that's flawed logic. Not much else happening locally. The UK women's team, we hate to discuss that on this show, but the drama, the soap opera, continues. They lost another recruit. I don't even know how many players they have now. Do they have enough for a team next year? That press conference and press junket that Matthew Mitchell went on a couple of weeks ago, where he answered no questions, but got all this credit from the media for answering all these questions when he didn't really say anything. Oh, but he stood up. What a stand-up coach. He got in front of the media and answered everything. No, he was told to get up in front of the media, and he answered nothing. Do you still know why these girls are leaving this program? No, nobody knows. But everybody's gone. But he still gets a free pass. I truly do not understand why this coach, I don't care if you're the checkers team coach, the football coach, whatever. You can't have this many departures and just have everything swept under the rug and just proceed like all is well. Nothing to see here. Something has to change. This program won't even have enough players next year. They're going to have to get walk-ons. Oh, and there'll be plenty of girls who want to try out as a walk-on. I can promise you that. But still, the fact that we know nothing still to this day and the whole team is gone, how come he's getting a free pass? Only in Kentucky, man. This is ridiculous. Bottom line, there is some crazy, shady stuff going on with that women's basketball program, but nobody knows what's going on. I don't care if the team wins every game or loses every game. But there's drama, and it's a soap opera, and there's something being hidden there that nobody knows. What's it going to take to have some kind of explanation or investigation into what's going on? Because nobody in the public has any idea why these girls are leaving. And even when the coach gets in front of a news conference, even when the coach gets in front of the media, he still has no answers. He said it was all a coincidence that these girls were leaving and all these coaches were leaving. Yeah, sure it is. Unbelievable. Reds win last night. 3-2, 3 solo home runs. Dan Straley pitches well, 6 innings, 2 runs, and the bullpen goes 3 innings and gives up nothing. Tony Cingrani gets his second save on the year, the third for the team. So the Reds win and they'll play Pittsburgh again tonight. Juan Nicasio going for the Pirates, 3.16 ERA against our old pal, using that term loosely, Alfredo Simon, who saw his ERA drop almost 4 points after his last outing, down to 9.86. Pirates have lost 6 of 8, now at 17-15. Reds have won 2 in a row, 14-19. Pirates about a minus 135 out in Vegas. This is a game I certainly will not touch under any circumstance. Last week we took Alfredo Simon against Milwaukee, but the Pirates are no Milwaukee. And Nicasio has already started against the Reds once this year, going 7 innings and allowing 1 run. But I wouldn't touch this game out in Las Vegas for anything. You're on your own on this one. The Reds are obviously the underdog, so if you make me take somebody, I'll always take the underdog, but I wouldn't feel good about this one. This isn't the spot for Simon. There's a poll in the Cincinnati Enquirer today. Which Red will lead the team in home runs this year? Surprisingly, Jay Bruce and Adam Duvall were the 2 that got the most votes. If these 2 are getting the most home runs, how come they're batting 5th, 6th, 7th in the lineup every day? How about moving Votto up to 2nd and then putting somebody at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th hole that can knock him in? And by the way, speaking of Cingrani in the bullpen, can we safely say now that Cingrani is the ipso facto closer of this team now? I guess. But he's the only lefty in that bullpen. I have no idea how Brian Price is going to handle this going forward. But as of this day, May the 10th, I suppose Cingrani is your closer. Of course, that could change in about 12 hours. In other baseball news, Steven Strasburg of the Nationals signed a 7-year, $175 million extension yesterday, making him the 6th highest paid player in baseball and tied for the highest paid starting pitcher in baseball with the Mariners' Felix Hernandez. The question is, does he deserve this contract? He's 27 years old right now. He's been in the top 10 in Cy Young voting 1 time, and he finished 9th in that year. In 2014, he had 34 starts, 242 strikeouts, with a 3.14 ERA. In his 4 years where he started 23 games or more, his best ERA, 3. Top 10 in ERA 1 time. Top 10 in WHIP 2 times. Strikeouts per 9 inning, top 10 twice. But he's never been in the top 5 in any category. And now he's going to be 28 years old going into next season. And you sign him to 7 years, $175 million? He's only started 30 games in a season twice. And you're giving him that much money. That is going to be an awful contract. Because this contract, he's going to be 35 by the time it's over. There's no way that he doesn't have another Tommy John surgery before that time. For my money, a horrible contract for the Nationals. But they've got money to spend. Max Scherzer came in on a big contract. He was a Cy Young winner with Detroit. What they need to do is save their money for Bryce Harper, who's going to be a $300 million player when his contract runs out. And speaking of Bryce Harper, if you caught his act last night, he got ejected in the 9th inning for arguing balls and strikes on another player getting called out. And then that same player, Clint Robinson, who literally did not know that it was the bottom of the 9th. He thought it was the bottom of the 8th and wondered why everybody was celebrating. There's a great baseball player for you. Hits a home run, and the game's over, and everybody's celebrating. But Bryce Harper is more involved with yelling at the umpire, dropping a few FU bombs along the way. By the way, Harper 0 for 2, 2 walks last night. Still, teams are very scared of Harper, and with good reasons. If I was Harper at 23 years old, a most valuable player, 107 career home runs so far, and about to sign a contract worth $300 million in a couple of years, I'd feel pretty good about myself and go around saying F you to everybody too. I was reading something where Harper, they want him to move up to leadoff. Why would you want a guy that's going to hit 40 home runs batting leadoff? I don't know. But look at the guys that bat ahead of Bryce Harper. Lexington's own Ben Revere, batting 150. Anthony Rendon, 211. Michael Taylor, 185. The guy who bats behind Harper, Ryan Zimmerman, 227. These guys aren't helping Harper out very much. But of course, that great Dusty Baker lineup construction. Who could ever doubt that? Daniel Murphy, the only good hitter that the Nationals have, he's batting .398, but he bats fifth every night. Oh, because Bryce Harper's left-handed, we got to have a right-hander batting behind him, so Murphy's a left-hander, so we'll bat him fifth. So we'll go 3, 4, 5, lefty, righty, lefty. That's so stupid. That way we can't bring in the loogie, the lefty went out only guy, and have him face two guys, Harper and Murphy, for the price of one. That's dumb. I don't know who came up with that, but that's just dumb. Put your best hitters where they should be, regardless of lefty-righty matchups. How bad is it for Harper? 60% of the times that he comes up to the plate, there's nobody on base. Why not bat him leadoff? That being said, the Nationals are not a team you want to face the playoffs with a rotation of Scherzer, Strasburg, and Bryce Harper, the best player in baseball, batting third. They would have a chance against the Cubs in a playoff matchup, except at the manager position. Joe Madden would humiliate Dusty Baker. NBA, Miami, and Toronto now tied at 2. By the way, who knew that Dwayne Casey, when he was an assistant at UK, and allegedly sending money through Emory packages out to Chris Mills, would be an NBA coach as long as he's been? Of course, he would have been fired last offseason if he didn't fire all of his assistant coaches. Way to throw your guys under the bus, but I guess you got to protect your phony baloney job. Series tied 2-2. Dwayne Wade, who had a layup that literally got stuck on top of the rim, that was something to see, now has to go back to Canada for Game 5, and they'll be lying in wait to kill this guy after he was shooting jump shots during the Canadian National Anthem in Game 2. Warriors win. They're up 3-1. That series is now over. Steph Curry back. 17 points in overtime. Unbelievable. Draymond Green comes out today and says, yeah, the Blazers are done. He's right. Can't fault the guy for telling the truth. What are the Cavs doing right now? They're just hanging out. LeBron James driving his Kia. By the way, who knew that LeBron James actually drove a Kia? You know he's getting paid to do that. Goodness. Tonight, Thunder and Spurs, Game 5 in Texas. If the Thunder are going to win this, they better win tonight, because you don't want to go back to Game 7 in San Antonio. Spurs a 7-point favorite. I wouldn't touch this game for anything, but look for a spirited effort from OKC tonight. Still not a game I would touch. But San Antonio will win this series, and the inevitable Spurs-Warriors conference finals will start next week. College football. Jim Harbaugh today said that Michigan will have 26 satellite camps throughout the month of June. Where's UK in all this? They just going to sit by and let this happen? I guess so. They had the voting for the NBA Executive of the Year, and it came out that Sam Hinkie, formerly of the 76ers, he was fired/retired earlier this season, finished 10th in the voting. By the way, his career record as a GM, 47 wins, 199 losses. And he finished 10th in the voting? Sheesh, I'd hate to see who finished behind that guy. NFL news. Adrian Peterson comes out today and says he's going to play till he's 40 years old. Yeah, sure you are. When's the last running back who played at 40? That's right, nobody. Somehow the internet leaked out the Oakland Raiders draft scouting lists from 2010. Number 1 on that list? Gronkowski. Why didn't they take him in the first round? Gronkowski didn't go till the 42nd overall pick. Who'd the Raiders take? Rolando McClain. They got nothing out of him. He's already out of the league. You could argue Gronk is the best player from that entire draft. And the Raiders had it. Who's better? Ndamukong Suh? Des Bryant? I'd rather have Gronk. The Raiders had it right, and they still blew it. New Houston quarterback Brock Osweiler commented on the Texans draft and said, it was a very exciting draft. I'm looking forward to the season. Yeah, I'd be looking forward to the season too if I was getting paid as much as you were. But is Brock Osweiler really an improvement? Osweiler playing for the Broncos, much better team, much better defense. You can talk J.J. Watt all you want. His quarterback rating, 48. Brian Hoyer, who actually played for the Houston Texans last year, his quarterback rating, 59. Color me not nearly as excited as Brock Osweiler is. By the way, have you seen Tom Brady now is kind of marketing himself? He's got a cookbook that's worth $200 a pop. And he did a commercial for mattresses where he's dressed like James Bond. You think maybe he needs some money to cover all these legal fees from fighting the NFL and this Deflategate? Desperate times, desperate measures. Congress will now debate the validity of daily fantasy sports. Congress would be very wise if they finally relented and understood that sports gambling is a part of today's society. And if you don't get on board now, you're not going to be able to regulate it in the future. That's what government does. They don't care what happens. All they want is their cut of the money. Eventually, these daily fantasy sports sites, all these sports gambling people, it'll all be legal eventually. It's just getting everybody to come around and see it for what it is. If we could go to the store and get a lottery ticket right now, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to go down and put $100 on the Reds tonight. The North Carolina State 1983 basketball team finally got to go to the White House to celebrate their national championship. Last time I checked, it's 2016. 33 years later. Where's the coach? Sadly, Jimmy Valvano's passed away. Where's the guy who dunked it at the last second to win the game in the most miraculous fashion ever? He's also passed away, Lorenzo Charles. Don't you think it's a little late now? I understand doing it better late than never, but wow, couldn't you have at least done it while those guys were still alive? Media news. ESPN has dumped Cris Carter and Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis was awful. I thought Ray Lewis was going to be a lot better. He was terrible. Randy Moss is now in at ESPN. I liked him. I've always liked Randy Moss on television. I think he'll be great. And Sean McDonough is now the new voice of Monday Night Football. We'll see how that goes. I like Sean McDonough too. We'll see how he meshes with Gruden. But my favorite story is Mike North of Fox Sports Radio came out and said that Jessica Mendoza, who replaced Curt Schilling in the ESPN Sunday Night booth, is the worst baseball announcer ever. He prefaces it by saying, I like all these female announcers, and he names a few female announcers, and he says, she's still the worst I've ever heard. I'm going to be honest. She's not the best baseball announcer ever. But in today's society, in today's day and age of social media and political correctness, you can't come out and say this. Look at Curt Schilling. In my former station in Atlanta, we had a guy made fun of her on social media, and he was fired. So whether she's a good announcer or not, she's not my favorite, I can promise you that. She just doesn't add a whole lot, because I watch those games a little bit at a time. It almost sounds like she's in another studio. But I mean, it's just a baseball announcer. We're not splitting the atom here. But I'll be interested to see how Mike North is treated, what happens to his career now that he has come out and said this about Jessica Mendoza. And by the way, the guy that Mendoza replaced, Curt Schilling, said he was making $2.5 million at ESPN. Really? And you blew that just to be a punk on social media? Boy, your priorities are in the right place. That's just dumb. Now he wants people to pay him to watch baseball games with him. That is desperado time. Okay, Mac Daddy Stogie time. We talked about the NBA game earlier. Spurs 7-point favorite. I don't like this game at all. I'll pass on this one. I would take OKC in a pinch, but I'll pass. The Reds, as we discussed earlier, Alfredo Simon, is he really the real deal because he had a good game against the lowly Brewers last week? I don't know. I'll stick away from that one too. Let's go out to Anaheim. The St. Louis Cardinals, a disappointing 16-16 against the Los Angeles Angels, an equally disappointing 13-18. Angels a -125, Cardinals +115. So I'm going to immediately look at the Cards. What do they have? Mike Leake, you may remember him, Reds fans. He's 0-3 with a 6.03 ERA so far this season. But the Angels are in shambles. Their starting pitcher, Hector Santiago, 3.58 on the season. But the Angels have lost 3 in a row. Andrelton Simmons, their shortstop, now on the disabled list. Their closer, Houston Street, has been on the disabled list. Albert Pujols is batting 190 on the season. Both teams were off yesterday. Both teams have rested bullpens. Give me the better team. I'm going to take the Cardinals, +115 in Anaheim against the Angels. We went 2-1 last night. We're 5-1 in our last 6. Get on this train while it's hot. Give me the Cardinals at the Big A tonight. And that does it for the Tuesday, May the 10th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at BottomLineLex. Look for us on Facebook, Bottom Line Lexington. Email anytime, bottomlinelex@gmail.com. And go to our website, bottomlinelexington.com. And please follow this YouTube channel. So until next time, may the winners be yours.